Good evening. There's just one more final sprint left before Queensland decides who'll win the state election.
Bookies and the polls agree Labor's the favourite, helped by Tim Nicholls' spectacular fumble just as we reached the finish line.
He's tried boats, he's tried bikes, and today, Tim the Tool Man. He's gone underwater and over land, but he's never tried harder to duck the question of forming government with One Nation.
What we're going to do is deal with the Parliament that the people of Queensland elect.
Nation preferences.
Oh, Carl, you're trying to wind me up there, mate. I'm not going to fall for it. I'm going to respect the will of the people of Queensland.
Will you form government with One Nation?
No.
Tim, it's not hard, is it?
The would-be Premier is right to say he can only work with the Parliament Queensland gives him, but Labor's made the most of signs One Nation and the LNP are closer than we know. And there was this classic catch in a TV slip.
Then the best thing to do is to support your local LNP candidate at the election.
Oh, look, it's been a long campaign. I was simply going to say that you need to vote one for your local LNP candidate.
Anastasia Palaszczuk's revved up her attack too.
He has failed the leadership test. Mr Nicholls is a leader without substance. How can anyone trust him to give straight answers if he was ever back in government?
Before starting a last-ditch sprint through the seats Labor can almost taste, starting again on the Gold Coast tomorrow morning.
29 hours is a long time in politics.
The rest is up to us.
To Joel Dry now at South Bank. Joel, you're in a seat that's set to shape tomorrow's results.
Andrew, this is the smallest electorate in the state, but it could have the biggest impact on the election result. We are, of course, in South Brisbane, home to Deputy Premier Jackie Trad. And for a big part of this campaign, it has been touted as a potential high-profile loss to the Greens party. And if that happened, then the re-election hopes of the government would have been dealt a major blow. But they think they have just done enough. Talking to some Labor people, they are confident they will hold this seat and Jackie Trad will keep her job. But there are many MPs tonight around the state from both parties who are nervous that they will be losing their jobs, not to the hands of Greens candidates, but people from One Nation. If undecided voters needed a sign from above...
OK, we're looking up.
Steve Dixon delivered.
I'm sure you can see up there because I know from...
The One Nation state leader, joined by his federal counterpart for a final campaign push.
I'm very confident you're going to do extremely well.
Preparing for a future without Palaszczuk as Premier.
Anastasia Palaszczuk, if you do not get your 47 seats required to govern in your own right, then stand down as leader of the Labor Party and hand it over to someone else.
After a week of slip-ups...
61 candidates. I won't apologise that I don't know everyone's name and who the candidate is.
One Nation is still aiming to shape the election's outcome.
We are giving people of Queensland a real option to have the balance of power.
But they may be stumbling at the final hurdle, with the latest Galaxy poll showing a statewide fall in primary support for One Nation from 18 to 12%. Despite the drop, the polls still suggest that One Nation will most certainly win seats. They also point to Steve Dixon not being amongst the winners. So that poses the question of who will lead the party in his absence, but as yet there is no answer. For now, the only plan is to stick with Steve. Joel Dry, 9 News.
So for nearly a month, we've heard their promises and we've given the leaders another 30 seconds, their best and final pitch for your vote.
My government has delivered 134,000 jobs working with industry and business right across our state. But tomorrow there is a clear choice. Whether or not we keep good, decent government under the government I have been leading, or choose the alternative, which is the LNP and One Nation, which would be cuts and chaos for Queensland. So please, let's stick together. Our best days are ahead of us, and there is nothing more important than jobs, health and education for families right across our state.
Well, the voters of Queensland need to ask themselves whether they can afford another 3 years under Labor. The LNP is offering $780 off your power bills over the next 3 years, a family car rego freeze, cuts to payroll tax for small business, 500,000 jobs over the next 10 years, and building roads, things like the second M1, the Sunshine Coast Rail duplication, and more dams to put more area under agriculture and improve our exports. We will invest in the infrastructure that Queensland needs to create more jobs locally for local people.
There they are, and we're joined in the studio now by our state political editor, Shane Doherty. OK, Shane, who's going to win?
I think Labor, Andrew. There's just no mood for change, unlike the last couple of elections. They'll lose some seats, but the LNP will lose more and Labor will gain a lot more. Of course, the wild card is One Nation. Most of the number crunchers say it's not a matter of whether they'll win seats, it's how many. But the real experts, the people who know how this election is going to turn out, are sitting on that side of the television screen. Good luck with it. We'll see you again tomorrow.
We look forward to that with having you on the panel, Shane. Thank you. And do join us as the votes come in for our Queensland Decides election special. We'll bring you unrivalled coverage from 5 o'clock after the cricket tomorrow afternoon.